My void will consume you, if you ask nicely.
Your will is no longer your own.
Stay away from them. To arms!
You have led the Horde to a place without honor.
Your petty quarrels only make me stronger.
Our world needs us, champion.
You got it over your head.
We cannot let the world fall to darkness.
Already lost.
Put your faith in the light, and all is possible.
Is it truly righteousness that drives you? I wonder.
It would seem you have guessed.
They are coming for you. This is the Whispers of War.
Hello everyone and welcome to number 100 of Whispers of War. I'm your host Sil, and let's start with that. I never expected I would reach 100 shows, to be honest, considering where Battle Chat went. So very pleased and happy with that. It's been an absolute joy creating 100 shows. And talking to so many of you amazing people out there and getting your tweets and your messages, that was really amazing. So I have a very long show for you guys planned. There is a roundtable that was already recorded a few weeks ago, but I wanted to keep it for this show. But it's just great that we can now use it for show 100. I'm really pleased with it. But let's do it as we always do. What did I do in World of Warcraft last week? Well, not much, in all fairness. I sorted things out. So I'm still with the whole I'm going to level a sub-rogue. That's going to be my main for now. We all know that they're still tweaking classes. I don't know if they're going to make sub-rogue really bad. And I don't want to play it anymore because I just don't like what it is. But so far, that's still the main priority. I know that I said that I was going to have 6 characters. You know, just a little bit of playing a few of these classes and here and here and here. This might have changed slightly to maybe more, just because. And hear me out. It's just because there are some classes that I'm quite curious about, but I don't quite know if I want to play them. So, the 2 classes that I actually added were Warlock and Hunter. And I'm not going to lie, it's pure because of the hype train for them. Because so many people go, oh, they're freaking amazing, you need to play this is the best class ever. And I feel a certain way about ranged classes. I used to love them in the past. Now I just want to stab things in the face. However, it seems that Shadowlands is very melee heavy. And I thought, okay, well, all my alts are going to be, again, melee. Because it's warrior, paladin. So I thought maybe I should add 2 to the list that I would like to try out. And see if I ever want to have a different sort of change of pace, I guess, or play style, then I can. So I thought, let's pick 2 pet classes. So it's the Warlock and the Hunter. It might just be something of, who knows, maybe. Or they could gather dust for the entire expansion. I don't know. We will see. So, it's 8 now. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, really. So, sub-rogue, that will be it for now. And then hopefully that will be, I won't feel the need to level anything else except for another Horde character to see that storyline, if there's a different storyline. And I can continue with my life, and hopefully we'll get a hide button so I can hide all my alts so I don't get confronted with them all the time. And see all the choices I made in my life. Anyhow. So that's that for Warcraft. I did play a little bit around on them. They are sufficiently geared now. I've decided not to go for the cloak, as so many of you have said that it's not really worth it. It's too long, the quest for this time in the expansion. So that's fine for me. I'm not quite sure what I am going to do in life at the moment. I think I'm just going to go mount farming maybe, because some people seem to have so much luck right now before the expansion. So I think I'm going to do that. I will definitely continue some beta testing while I'm at it. This week I just haven't done a lot because, well, I had the show to prep for. And in all fairness, this is the most fucking editing I've ever done in my life, guys. Because all of you send in so many amazing MP3s, and I needed to make sure that they were all put on the same volume. I don't know if I succeeded in that, but I think it's about the same now. But made sure that all of that got edited. Then I had the roundtable that I needed to edit. You will see why at the end of the show. So even after the credits, I think you should keep listening a little bit after, I say where can you find us. Keep listening to that, because there's more. And yeah, but I did enjoy it. I've had a blast listening to all of it. So without further postponing anything, I am going to leave you the roundtable. I had all about diversity and representation in the game World of Warcraft. I just want to say one or two things. This is not us or me pushing an agenda. I think that the listeners who listen to my podcast anyway know that I'm not a preachy podcast as it is. And you know that I don't push agendas. We are just simply talking about a subject. If there is a message that we want to push, it's just don't be a dick. And I think everyone is saying that nowadays. So just don't be a dick. So there's no hidden agenda. There's nothing there. It's just us talking about a very important subject to us. But with that, I hope that you enjoy the roundtable. We had a lot of fun with it. And afterwards, I'll come back with some more stuff for you guys. So yeah, I'll see you on the flip side. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second roundtable for Whispers of War. I'm your host, Sil, and I am joined by not one, not two, not three, but four lovely guests. It's a full house today. I am well represented by the Dragon-Powered Studio team. So I'm just going to let everyone introduce themselves. So why don't we start with the other lady in the room. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Sil. Thanks so much for having me on the show again. I feel like, I don't know, this is your second round table. This is my second round table. Am I just going to be on all of them?
I so think far, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stats are racking up here.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, I think it's because, Monica doesn't play World of Warcraft, so I can never grab her for that to come on the round table.
That's true. Well, hi, for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Amanda, co-host of Geek Herring, a critical geek culture podcast talking about feminism and geek culture. I'm a huge geek, feminist since 1986, and I like to play video games.
Very welcome. And of course we have, should I call you Big Rig because that's on your screen now, or should I just call you Rig?
Whatever takes your fancy, Sil. Whatever you want to call me, I am open to be called it.
Okay, well, I'll call you Rick because, I don't know, Big Rick sounds a bit like I'm landed in a porn movie, so I'll just call you Rick.
Well, the shoe fits.
Hi guys, I'm Rig from the Character Craft podcast where we talk about the characters that make up the World of Warcraft universe, and good or bad, we talk about it all, and I'm overjoyed to be here and hopefully get some points across and have a good in-depth discussion about the world we live in.
Absolutely. It's lovely to have you here as well. Welcome, Frazley.
Hey, and I'm Frazley of Frazlecast, for those who might not know. It's a podcast that talks with people across the community, same way as Whispers of War and like Girls Gone Wild and stuff like that. I'm recently out as a asexual, aromantic, and agender / non-binary. So I'm still learning a lot, but I want to be ally for those identities that I'm not, that I don't identify as, but also I want to be there for anybody who's struggling. I want to be like, hey, 30 years or more, at any time you can self-discover yourself.
Yeah, it's very, very, very true. And I think all of us are still learning, so it's great to have you on. And of course, last but not least, welcome, Thom.
Hello. It's been a while since I've been on a Whispers of War. I think I always come in just before an expansion comes out. That's like, we've got that booked or something that happens. And yeah, my name's Thom. I used to be a host on a World of Warcraft Blizzard entertainment podcast in Blue Recluse. You might have heard of it. It doesn't exist anymore. But these days you can find me on 3 Extra Lives, which is a video game and trivia podcast where I'm celebrating video games in a positive environment. And I'm very, very appreciative to be here today with an Avenger-style roster of podcasters. I'm very excited to get talking into some pretty serious stuff, but I'm very glad to be here.
Yes, and you're very right. So this podcast is going to be about diversity and representation, because it's been certainly a lot in the news, and especially around Blizzard and World of Warcraft. We have seen some nods towards the community, how Blizzard is trying to include everyone. So we will be talking about that. I'll just start off with a few questions, and then we'll just go through it. But because we have a lot of voices, there's a lot of opinions. I'm quite curious. When we all are gamers in some way. When was the first time that you realized, as a gamer, that representation and diversity in the games that you played might be present, or there might be a lack of that presence? Whoever wants to start can start, by the way.
I'll start on this because it feels pretty fresh to me, because I was thinking about when was the first time I remember even playing as a female in a video game. And I'm like, when was that? It wasn't fresh on my head. I had to think of it. And I was like, oh yeah, it was probably Streets of Rage, playing as Blaze, or the likes of Tomb Raider. And the more I thought about it, I was like, I don't really think I've played that many games, with female protagonists, and just trying to think, and even, people of color as well in video games as characters. And I was struggling to think of something. I went on Google and found some characters Lee and Clementine from The Walking Dead, or we've got characters in Overwatch like Doomfist, Pharah, and Sombra. But I'm like, that doesn't seem that this feels a bit weak. This feels like I'm not overwhelmed with oh yeah, this person. So I think when it comes to even thinking about the lack of diversity in games, as a gamer, I've never really put much attention into that. I haven't really cared about that, and I've been on a bit of a journey of becoming more aware about being anti-racist and the white privilege and everything surrounding that. And I've been very, very ignorant to racism and representation, for sure, absolutely, because I thought it's fine, I'm just playing video games. But the more I thought about it, just today, it's actually there's a big problem in this. There's still a big problem. I know there's work being done, but I just feel wow, this has left me feeling, really oh my goodness, there just isn't as much representation. And just trying to go from basic knowledge of oh yeah, you got your Tomb Raiders and things like that, but I was drawing blanks without actually doing some actual research, which there's something wrong with that, right? There's something wrong with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that, Thom. Absolutely.
How have you experienced it, Rig?
I'm pretty much in the same boat as Thom. As a straight white male from a very working class area of the northeast of England, there's that social underlying tone of it's a very, how can I put it, very strong white area of the country. There is the smatterings of different cultures and colours and creeds and race, religion in the area. And I think as growing up in that, it kind of gets ingrained into you. And for myself, I'm trying to become this year especially a better person, I mean, not that I was a bad person before, but more so like being more considerate to people, being more aware of people's backgrounds and people's wishes with regards to, their, whatever it may be, as I say, religion, race, creed, you name it, or even just the way people identify. I know our friend Frazley here, as he's mentioned, he's obviously on his journey of self-discovery, and the way he wants to be known and the way he sees himself. And I must admit, I've had a little bit of difficulty, not getting used to it, but kind of kicking myself or pinching myself when I use the wrong terms that Frazley prefers, the wrong pronouns, things like that. And as I say, I'm just trying to be a better person with regards to that. And then on the mental health side of things as well, and being more understanding. In my past, I worked for an ambulance service, and not taking phone calls for 999 or 911, as people in the States might know it. And it was obviously, it was a hard job, long shifts, horrible hours. Yeah. And you find yourself becoming jaded, especially speaking to the public. You lose a lot of you lack and lose a lot of empathy with regards to people and their situations, whether it's health related, physical health related or mental health related. You kind of feel as though you get how can I say it? You get burnt out, and it definitely changes the way you are as a person and the way you see the world as a person. So I'm trying to kind of correct that. It's been a couple of years now, but I'm trying to correct that, and I'm trying to correct the way I am, to be a better person in a better world. I mean, I'm under no illusions that this is, for me, this podcast, this roundtable is a learning experience. I'm here to learn, and obviously discuss with all of you, the pros and cons of the way people act,
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing for also people who listen to this podcast, that it is a learning experience, I think, for a lot of people, because with a lot of things that we've seen happen lately, I think a lot of people are learning about new things, and things that they might have perceived as fine or not an issue actually turn out to be an issue. So I think it's good that we're discussing it, and hopefully it will... I don't like the word teach someone something new, because it sounds very you need to learn from this and you need to do that. I don't want it like that, but I do feel it's good to hear certain things at least, and maybe that will put you on a road of learning a bit more or researching a bit more for yourself. And that little bit of extra knowledge is never a bad thing, in my opinion. Who would like to go next? Frazley?
Yeah, so I've definitely been represented in games on my race because I'm white, and almost every game has white. I saw representation, not for me, but for like the LGBTQ in, it was either Mass Effect or Dragon Age, I don't remember which, but you as a male could romance another male, and I remember that being a huge thing. That of course caused a lot of debate, but like since then it's opened my eyes. And like back then I had identified as male and also identified as straight, but it was over time I've seen games opening up, and I think really seeing what they're doing in WoW with like Pelagos and like even the dropping of the gender fee. I'm starting to see more representation, and like I know people even like question like if Wrathion. I think Rathion's one that everyone's questioning. Wrathion and Anduin. I mean, there's a lot of different things we're questioning in WoW, but it's I've seen it coming out more, but it's not there. And definitely, I would say I think one area where it's also not there is for females. Females are not represented enough. I did see it with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The Greek one where you could play both of the ones, but that was because the one prior they didn't want to add in a female protagonist because it wouldn't sell. Oh, I could talk about that one for hours. And mean, I think Amanda would be a better one to talk to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Amanda, how do you feel about representation in games?
So I think I kind of have a unique perspective because I kind of took a break from gaming for most of the early 2000s. So my aside from Nintendo games, which like Mario, and it's hardly super representative, but so I started with Tomb Raider. That was basically the only game outside of Nintendo that I ever played up until 2011 when Skyrim came out. And so it was actually kind of a cool introduction to me for, I don't know what the word is, like AAA titles, I guess, outside of Nintendo, because I was able to create a character that kind of looked like me, and I was able to make her do pretty much whatever I wanted her to do, including marry a woman. And it was an option that I was just like, oh, okay, it's here. This is 2011. I don't know what it was like in earlier years, but, you know, it felt really cool for me to just look around, and I had a choice of who I wanted my character to marry. And that has kind of, I don't want to say like I'm looking at video games with rose-tinted glasses, but I think because I've come into these more adult games later in my life than like a lot of people, like I think, you know, prior to this, there maybe hasn't been as much representation outside of Lara Croft. But now, like, seeing the diversity growing in games, especially in the Blizzard world, like with Overwatch and Warcraft and Heroes of the Storm and Diablo now as well. Like, I think that there's some amazing diversity coming through the characters. I think it was at E3 last year that they announced a game that was quite similar in style to Overwatch, but not by Blizzard. And it had a cast of playable characters that were so diverse and representative, it like actually blew my mind. Like there was so many different like types of women, so many different types of men. There was like a couple of disabled characters, all different colors and races of characters, body shapes and sizes, and even like sexual orientations. And like it was just such a really unique game to see at E3, like on the big screen. And yeah, I think like, yeah, gaming and diversity in games maybe hasn't always been amazing, but I think it's getting so much better, and I think it's only going to continue getting better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. You do see a lot more companies trying to include at least different races, women and male protagonists, which is good, but of course there's always room to develop on it more, as we've seen now that you know, our society is not so much changing as that it's more open now, and people are more accepting of people to actually be who they are. I think if I speak for myself, I think because I started my gaming off on the Atari with Frogger and things like that. You know, how much can you identify with a pixel frog? But well, you never know. But I don't think I really realized it until I was a bit older and I saw like Mortal Kombat, that I went like, oh my god, that's an Asian girl. I don't care if she's evil or not, but that's an Asian girl. And for me, I then started to realize with a lot of games like Baldur's Gate and things like that, like, oh, I can actually play as a female character. And somehow I always feared that steered that route, like, okay, I want to play the girl. Very subconsciously, I guess, just because I identify more with that character. It wasn't until recent that I sometimes thought, I haven't really seen anyone who could be just like me or anything. And that sounds really strange because I'm just, you know, female, but I'm mixed and anything like that. And sometimes I feel a bit like, I think even that card you don't see that a lot anymore. The one thing I do see it everywhere is in advertisement on TV. Like I see a lot of families now, mixed families, and I'm like, that's really nice, but I would like to see it in other things as well, and not just in an advertisement for butter or something like that. So I think we're going the right direction, absolutely, but there's always room for improvement with everything. And like I said, I think for me personally, it's a little bit easier because at least there are female characters I could play. But that doesn't mean that I don't like playing as male characters, or if there would be any other type of characters I could play. I'm really interested in, would it be needed, like necessary, to enjoy a game, or is it really needed to enjoy a game or have a game that all people are represented nowadays in video games? Or do you feel like, no, it's fine with how it is now, why should everyone be represented? And I'm kind of like, this, we are all very pro about changes and representing everyone, but would it be critical that all people would be represented in video games?
I definitely would say, because one, it's nice being able to, like, for instance, go into like the Shadowlands beta and change Frazley's looks to be more like what I want to be. It's nice to be able to be more representative of who I am in real life. But also, I think it makes it look a little less tired if your world's full of diverse, unique people. Because if it's the same old stuff, it's gonna look tired. And I'm actually frankly getting tired of the same old heterosexual romances. I'm not against heterosexual romances, but every single romance seems to be heterosexual. I'm like, I want another one. I want another Tracer. I want more stuff like that. I think it helps to have uniqueness, because our world's not same. Our world's not all one form of stuff. Why should our games be bland and boring?
I think one of the arguments about diversity in games, I know you brought up Tracer there, Frazley, because when it was kind of portrayed in a comic, I think actually, that Tracer was gay, that caused a lot of controversy. The fact, like, oh, this is being forced, and this is just being put out there to please people. And I think there's an interesting dynamic on that, because I think in one point I want the people that are writing these stories, that are putting these agendas forward as well, like, you kind of also want the people that have experienced that to be telling these stories, so it's told in a way that you're digesting it in a way, like in a more accurate way than, for example, say like, hey, I'm a white male and I'm going to write this story about 2 gay women. It's like, okay, you might be getting that, but then are you getting it in the right context? Are you actually experiencing that in a way that's right? And I think we necessarily won't always know, because we can't see behind the scenes of who's writing the stories, who's pitching these ideas. Is it coming from somebody that has experienced this and thinks this is a good idea? And I think there is a balance there of well being. Like, yes, I absolutely 100% want more diversity in games. Who wouldn't want more diversity? Who wouldn't want to try and understand the world a bit better? Because there's so many interesting, unique perspectives in the world that, as a white person, I've been totally ignorant to, because I'm just like, well, I'm just living my own world. I'm playing my own video games. And, I'm not saying that every game has to cover diversity, because there'll just be developers out there that just want to make a fun game, right? They just want to make a game. They're making games, and maybe they'll get to a point where in the industry that they're connecting with more diverse people, that then that starts to happen more naturally, because I don't think we're at that point. We're not at that point where diversity is just almost mainstream. I know that might sound a bit tacky, but I don't think diversity is, because we're still stuck in our old ways of just how the world works. White people, the dominant race, and that's always going to be like the majority. And when you just think of the media you're consuming, and I think about the media I consume, and I'm like, oh my, like it makes me like not upset, but it's just like I've been so ignorant to that. Like I've in the last kind of few months, I've just been way more aware of this, and I've just been like I want and I need, like we need to as people, like to take more responsibility in opening ourselves up to this, because I think by default we're just shut off to it and we go to what we gravitate to, things that we feel more comfortable with, and that's, the traditional, white male hero of the story. And I'm not saying there, like, diversity has come a long way with with females, but it's always work to do, because I think, like Amanda said, like in the Warcraft world, there's really strong female characters in the stories there, and potentially some of the most favorite characters in the Warcraft universe are female characters, and have, you've got the likes of Sylvanas and Jaina Proudmoore, who you would probably say, like, they're calling the shots in the world of Warcraft. They're the ones that's like, yeah, they're the ones that you don't want to mess with, and they're the ones that are basically saving everyone's asses or spanking people's asses in a non-sexual way. But you know what I mean? Like, Sylvanas is doing a lot of bad stuff. But yeah, I think Rick had a question as well.
Yeah, so like, I've just obviously, as you guys have been talking, I've just had a thought, and like, especially when Amanda was talking about like Tomb Raider and things like that. Where do people think that the onus lies with regards to kind of lack of female representation? I suppose you could extend it to people of color and things like that. Where do we think that the onus lies with the lack of that representation in games? Is it the game developers? Is it the consumer? Is it society in general? Because I can see valid arguments for all three, really.
I mean, for me, I think it's all of the above. We need society to change. That's like big level, top level. That's absolutely, we need society to change. We also need game developers to put these diverse and representative characters in the games, and to not pander to people who say diverse characters don't sell, female characters don't sell, like the bullshit that happened with the recent Assassin's Creed games. Because I think pandering to people, like a minority of people who aren't who don't want to see this diversity, is not conducive to moving video games forward. And I think when we bring in a bigger representation in terms of the workforce and the people working on and building video games, we're naturally going to get a more diverse cast of characters represented on the video game screens. That's my opinion.
I think the reason I put the consumer is because I think we're getting, in my opinion, to the end of the kind of age where video games were solely marketed for boys, majority to, I don't even know how to say that word, you know what I mean. Or it was always like they were marketed towards males, and they were the obviously those males lapped it up, and it kind of, is it a vicious cycle? Is it that's what people want, so the game developers kept putting it out. And I think we're getting to the end of that age now, where diversity is becoming more of a mainstream public topic that I think things are changing, and obviously changing for the better,
I think there was a time when, like, even if you look like maybe 10, 20 years ago, that people mostly in the industry were white males. So they were the ones creating the game for what they thought was the same kind of audience, white young males. So every time that you got, like, for instance, female representation, we've all seen the pictures. I mean, even Lara Croft was a sex symbol, which, baffles me, because her pixels were not that great back then. And it's just, most of like Mortal Kombat, the women are highly sexualized with how they look. And I think when you see pictures now of developers, and I can only really speak for certain companies because I've only seen certain companies, you can see that there is more diversity. You see more women, you see more people of color, all sorts of people, and you can't see people's sexuality, but I'm sure that they are also all working in the industry now and have the same say and are not afraid to give their opinion about stuff. But I think when you even look like 20 years ago, I think people were quite a little bit quiet about who they are, what they stood for, and I think it's getting better. Also because, and that's, I think the public has been much more vocal via things like Twitter or Reddit or anything on the internet now to give their opinion about games. Some games flop just because the public is not having it with certain things, or they have to change. How many times did a game have to change just because the public is not happy with something? And it has happened. One small thing is, for instance, the ending of Mass Effect. When people were like, not having that, I've invested in these characters and then you're doing this, and they sort of fixed it with like an extra DLC, which is a whole other ballgame that I'm not going to talk about with getting extra money. But you know, it's I do think that they do listen to their public now, and unfortunately there's also a side of that public that does not like that change and does not like to see that representation. So I do think there is a bit of a circle there, but I think it's up to the developers to really break that, because in the end we are still the consumers and we can vote with our money, but they are the ones creating the games, so they have to release it.
Yeah, like I struggle with Ubisoft games because of their past. I want to play some of the games, but some of the stuff that's in the Ubisoft I struggle with, and like Tarkov that came out a while back, I refuse to support that developer because they don't view women being able to be in the military. I mean, so yeah, it is up to a consumer that you have to decide do you support the developer or not.
I think as well. I mean, I know we were saying like things are changing in I mean, I don't have the statistics, but I know that like females, for example, are still vastly underrepresented in the gaming industry. That was somehow hard to say, and I'm sure that, you know, that will be the same with like people of color as well, like of course. And as you look to the higher parts of these companies as well, you could probably bet your Nelly on it that every CEO is a white male. And yes, whereas some developers, you know, they're working with their heart and they want to pour all their love and passion into a project, you'll still have people above them, probably white males, that are dominating the decisions that ultimately go live. And we're still seeing that. We're seeing that with, you know, a lot of the big companies like Ubisoft and EA and the likes of that, you know, as those companies get bigger, and even in Blizzard, you know, they have not been squeaky clean. We have been talking about their character representation, but behind the scenes, you know, there's a lot of controversy there as well. And as these companies get bigger and they grow, then the moral compass shifts, and you see it in all these kind of big companies as well. You know, it's not just a video game industry problem, like Rick says, you know, society as well. As you climb further up the ladder, you kind of lose the diversity, and it becomes more, you know, straight white male, and ultimately they're the people in power, and they're the people that are making the decisions, and that's where things have to just start changing, and that's going to be very difficult. That's not going to be something that's going to change in the next, you know, couple of years. This is going to take a very long time. And I think the point about, like, for example, yes, video games marketed to males, there has been a shift in that, and now you do see more, like I do see more like females playing video games. I see more women playing video games. And you know, I remember like when I first played World of Warcraft and I heard there was, you know, a girl in our guild. It was like, whoa, there's a girl in our guild. Wow, that's amazing. You know, like there's a girl playing World of Warcraft. That's so. And you know, these, you know, but an island, it's like, yep, you know, most of the guilds, you know, represented in that way. And you've seen that shift. And now you kind of look at esports and you're going, well, that's still very dominant. That's still very, you know, male dominated. And that's going to take a while now for the representation to break through that, because that's very hard. Like I've seen a very small number of like people of color and females, you know, in that, and the abuse and the extra hurdles and pressure that has to be climbed and avoided and dodged. It's like, it's so frustrating, because like what they have to go through, even just to become a competitive esports, plus all the shit that they have to deal with regards to, because, you know, they're not a white male, and their race will come into it, their gender will come into it, and it's frustrating, because people will just bring that into it. If somebody's not a white male, then suddenly, it's like, oh, you're not good because you're a girl, or you're not good because, and it's so frustrating to see that. It's so annoying because I remember like watching Paftra, who was in the Hearthstone Grandmasters, which was like the top tier of like Hearthstone, competitive Hearthstone, playing week in, week out. And just, I don't really look at Twitch chat when I'm watching like live streams, but just the abuse that they have to deal with just because they're not a male. And it's so disheartening because it makes you want to just be like, well, fuck it then, like what can we do? And then I'm sitting here as a white male, like I've got nothing to worry about. I'm fine. I'm in the position of power, and I'm like, I want to express like I'm so against this and I'm allied. I'm allied with you, but at the same time, like I don't want to do that in a way that seems condescending, or I'm taking away from what you're achieving as well. And it's a fine balance as well of just trying to make a difference without making things worse as well.
I think those stereotypes are still there as well in society. I mean, majority of the the washing detergent ads you see on the TV, it's always like the housewife, and that's where things need to change as well. I mean, that's only the only example I can think of off the top of my head, but yeah, Tom's right. Like, just because someone's female or person of color shouldn't denote how good or bad they might be at a certain task.
Yeah, I just saw a tweet by somebody who was like, well, you only got partnered because you're female. And it's like, no, they partner because they are damn good at what they do. And that stuff still infuriates the hell out of me, that people want to point to someone's race or their gender to be like, you only got that because you got to do your skill.
Yeah, and I just want to put out there, like, true facts. 50% of all gamers are women. And, like, I think it's roughly 58 and 52, or 48 and 52, sorry, is the ratio of women to men playing video games. And over half of all households in the US have some, like, at least one person playing video games. Like, video games are a huge industry. They're getting bigger every single day. And because, like, of everything that we've been talking about, like, for years, all video games have been geared towards men, males playing games, males competing in games. And it was only really like the boys who were really nurtured to play the games. But now we're seeing people, more women our age, more young girls being like brought up playing video games. And there is a shift in terms of women playing professional esports. And there is, like, it's something new for women, yes, because we haven't been nurtured in the same way that all these competitive men have been. But we're getting there. We're slowly infiltrating. Fun word. We're not really infiltrating. We're just owning our space into these esports arenas to really just be present and own the games and be freaking badasses who can play video games just as well as men, because like there's nothing like biologically that says that men can click buttons better than women. It's just how much you practice, and like if men have been given more opportunities and more encouragement to practice than women historically, but now women are getting the space to practice and encouragement, we are going to see more and more women join the ranks in esports.
I just saw a new PvP group of they were calling them, I think it's like PvP babes, but like they want to create a safe space for women to go up in the ranks of WoW PvP. I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, even though it breaks my heart a little bit that it has to be that you even have to make it a safe space for women. Yeah. Because that would never have to be done for men. No. And I think we've seen the arguments, like there was, I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but there was a Twitter argument going on about a girl who plays ranked arenas, I think, and she dropped her rank a little bit, and then people including other girls, ripped on her and said, oh, you only got that rank because you dated a high-ranking arena player and you probably sucked his dick, and that's why you got so high. And it just... You would never see that with a guy, just because they're dating a high-ranked female player, that we say, oh, it's probably because she went down on her constantly, so that's why you got high. Why is it that shift? There's so much difference between male and female players still, or gamers in that sense. And I think, and if that's the one that you have, the most common one, male and female players and representation in games, then I almost feel sometimes a little bit disheartened for everyone else on the spectrum that is there, and who will probably have to also deal with that, but even worse, because there are a lot of people out there who just don't want any change, who are perfectly happy with just white male representation.
I remember one of the stories that came out early July was the female developer who was told you can only achieve progress in our company if you join me in my room. I'm like, that is utterly disgusting and sick, and I have words for that asshole.
It's bizarre that we're in 2020 and stuff like that still just happens.
I just don't understand how people think that's a rational way of thinking. Like, how fucked up in your head do you have to be to think that's acceptable and normal?
But that's who we've got running, most of our biggest companies, that kind of mindset. That's the mindset we have, and that's that's what's bleeding down through these companies. And yes, there's people coming through in these companies that are more diverse, but still, if the overarching top dog there, that's the way they're acting. And we've seen scandal come out now about Ubisoft, and hopefully more people come forward and kind of blow the whistle on these types of behavior as well, because I think the more we know about it and learn about it as well, and more that it's publicly out there, that this is just unacceptable, this cannot continue, we need to pretty much rewire the entire way that these companies work and how people are getting the opportunities to even work at these companies as well, because there's so much work to be done. And yes, I think in some ways we're making progress, but then like you say, still there's always those people that just don't want this, and that's the people who are making sometimes the most noise, and then your kind of voice gets drowned out. And it must be so frustrating as well for a person of color or females as well, just to be hearing that constantly, because then it just gets in your head. And like I said, that's a constant hurdle that they have to face as well. And as somebody white and male, I don't have to worry about that. And I want, I'm trying to be more aware of that and be because I could just I could just go through my life not having to concern myself with that, because I'm in the position where, I don't have to worry about that. And I'm that's not right. I have to though, because and it's pushing yourself to do that, because it's so easy. I'm not hurting anyone personally, so I'm doing all I can, but that's not enough. That is not enough.
It's always couched as a agenda or politics if you're bringing in your race or your orientation or your gender, and it's not politics. That's human. That's human beings. That we are all unique human beings.
Yeah. I think most of it boils down to people who somehow seem very scared of change. That's what it feels like to me. People are very reluctant, and I think I've heard somewhere that human beings somewhere always find change a little bit scary and are opposed to it the first reaction. But then, of course, it's how you handle it and see if, can you go with it and accept that change, or are you going to be completely against it? And this is something that I am kind of curious about, because how common do you think it is for people not to enjoy a certain game just because there is no version of themselves that they can play, or perhaps they are, but they're not overly positively represented in games. I think we've all sometimes seen games, even if there are like black people in them, all of a sudden they play like criminals or people from the hood, and all drug dealers, or putting it nicely over like, oh yeah, we're putting a stereotype here. How do you have you ever experienced it, and do you think that is something like that is very common for people, like, well, no, I'm not enjoying that because I'm not being represented in this game?
So I think it's important for everyone to be represented positively in video games, but I don't think it has to be every single video game, if that makes sense. Like, representation is important, but would be more specifically saying representation matters in games where you can customize your character, or that are like an online MMO kind of game. If it's a solo character like Tomb Raider or Uncharted, where this is the main character, like everybody knows Lara Croft. What I would like to see more is like more diverse lead characters, like solo black women having their own franchise, or like even queer characters like having their own franchises. Like, I think that it would be very important to have that kind of representation. And it's touching on again what you say about like, if there is diversity in some games, it's more these stereotypes. And I think it's the positive representation that matters, even in background characters, especially in background characters. Like, maybe they're not the most important character on the screen, but if the only time that you're seeing a black character is they're like in a gang or robbing somebody or involved in drive-by shootings, like, that's not going to be like, it's just going to perpetuate these negative stereotypes that exist in society. So we do need to, I think, push for more positive representation in our lead characters, and also in any background character as well. And I mean, I'm not saying that you can never have like a black person as a bad guy, but have like other races, other creeds, other genders, other sexualities, like because just as everybody can has the ability to be a good person, so everybody also has the ability to be the bad person. Everybody can be a bad guy, like it's not tied down to just a black guy.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's become an all too common narrative, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think that society is starting to become a bit tired of the stereotypes in games, like the younger generation maybe of gamers, or just gamers in general?
I think so. But I'm not a straight white male. I'm pretty far from a straight white male, and especially in terms of like my perspectives and my identity. I don't know. So I feel like I'm maybe not coming from a majority of gamers, and I think as well you need to look at, there's the people like Thom and Rig, the men like Thom and Rig, who are like open and learning and like really fabulous examples of the kind of men that we want driving the video game change. And then we have the incels, who are, like you say, Sil, I think that they're really driven by fear of change and fear of the other, and just want to gatekeep and be like, this is our sacred space. I feel dirty using the word sacred for that, but like, this is our space. This is like the space where we have retreated to after being treated like shit by society for so many years, because like so many, like I think that there's that's one of the huge things with it, like the incel kind of neckbeard type of male, is that like society has rejected them for being like weird and other and geeky themselves, so they've created this safe space for them, and are gatekeeping anybody else who wants to enjoy that space as well, and it's just perpetuating a cycle. And I don't think that they see that what they do to other people is actually exactly the same thing as what happened to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They've become the the victim in a way, like there's a site that has been going around on the Twitters, and I don't want to give them any airtime, but the whole site's all about how we're being repressed, and it's a white male. Again, nothing against white males at all, but it was that we're being repressed, we're not being represented enough in games. I'm like, hell no, they're being represented a lot in games.
Yeah, I want to add to this, because I know Amanda said, like, you know, me and Rig, you know, we're here today and we're talking very openly and very candidly, but I'm just going to say honestly about myself, like, as someone that just plays video games, like, I definitely haven't thought about diversity, and I wouldn't have probably given it a second thought about just continue to play games and not think about it. And there's definitely going to be more people with that attitude right now, I think. Like, I definitely think there's just people out there like, I play video games to escape from all that crap in the world, and, you know, I just play video games to, you know, for an escape. And I've definitely said those words before, and, you know, I do play video games to chill out and to relax and have fun with friends, but, you know, I'm on a little bit of a journey of self-discovery, and you know, even just today when I was staring at this game collection behind me, I've got a big shelf of games here, and I'm like looking at them going, like, it's a female lead character. I'm like, no. Like, I just pick up like a small handful. I'm like, that's never bothered me. Like, I'd happily just keep playing games and not bother about representation. Happily do that. But, you know, having these discussions and you know, seeing diverse characters being added to games, it makes you think, and it makes you stop and go, well, hang on. Like, there's people that aren't straight white males out there that want to be represented in these games, that want to have these experiences, want to see through their eyes, and they want to play that. They want to, you know, be invested in that. Just like how in all those hundreds of games where I've picked up, you know, a gun as a white male and, you know, saved the day. It's like, I think in especially like narrative driven stories, like, who, like I said again, but like, who wouldn't want to, you know, understand more people's perspectives and gain, because gaming has done great things with regards to telling stories and making people understand certain situations. We've seen it with the likes of, you know, mental health being explained in video games and coming into gaming a lot more. And it can definitely be done with these topics as well, but we need people to be open to that as well. And it's like, if you're a gamer and you enjoy playing games, why are you so against potentially playing a good game, but the lead character is a black female, for example? Like, why would that put you off? If you're a gamer, like, why does that thought scare you? Why does that thought make you not want to play that game just because of that? Like, it could be the best game you've ever played, but you wouldn't do it because it's a black female. It sounds like absolute nonsense, doesn't it? Even if you just take it from a pure perspective of you enjoy playing games, like, if that's your stance, then you're being racist. You're taking a stance on that, and it's not about the games for you then. So, you know, there's so many levels to it, but I just wanted to add that, like, you know, me myself, it hasn't been a priority for me, and it definitely hasn't. And I'm learning more that, you know, there's other people out there, regardless of myself, that want this representation, and why the heck should they not have it as well as much as me?
I'd pretty much say I'm in the same boat as well, Tom. I don't want to keep saying I'm in the same boat, but like, for me, it's never been an issue. It's never crossed my mind, because I just like games. I'd play anything regardless of who the antagonist or protagonists are. But obviously making myself more aware and making myself more, you know, open to this learning, it's definitely become more apparent that more could be done. And as I mean, it still wouldn't you know, dissuade me from playing a game, you know, who the protagonist or antagonist are, because I'm all there for the content. But I am more aware that, you know, things are changing, things should be changing, and enough hasn't been done in the past for, you know, different people of different backgrounds.
I thought it was interesting in Witcher 3. that I could choose as Geralt to not have sex with the woman. And I was like, because I didn't. It got to the point. I was like, no, I don't want to. And that sounds weird, but it was actually a time where they allowed asexuality. I was like, and I have not seen that in a lot of games where you're forced to through a cutscene. I mean, God of War. I love God of War, but you're forced to do that one cutscene, and you're like, yeah, it's nice having options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think especially in like what Amanda said, games that are online or where you can create your character, you should have that freedom. I can understand with certain IPs it's difficult. Like Uncharted, it's a male protagonist. You know, it's the male opposite of Lara Croft. So I get that sometimes you have to, like in my case, play as a male. Am I disappointed when I have to play as a male in some games? Sometimes, because I just don't get into the character as much as if it would be a female character. Like when we had Assassin's Creed, oh god, I forgot the name, the one with the brother and the sister. I always...
Syndicate?
Yeah,
no?
Yeah, Syndicate.
Syndicate, yes.
That was the one I always played as the female. Because I felt more like, oh yeah, I can immerse myself more in this character and in the game. So, you know, it's nice to have the options, but I've like from my point of view at times, I'm like, well, yeah, I understand that certain IPs just don't have a male character as a lead. Just like with certain movies, you have male lead characters for that particular movie, and then in other movies, I always feel like games, as long as there is a balance and I can find games that also have female representation, then I'm happy. And that was my very narrow viewpoint, because just like with white males, I was a long time like, as long as there's some girls, I can, you know, that would make me happy. And I didn't even look that much for women who were colored. That was like almost an extra bonus. And I'm beginning to wonder more and more if that's because that's how I grew up in society and just accepted it and just realized, well, yeah, it's just not common. So, you know, I'll just have to learn to live with it. And now I'm starting to wonder more and more, no, should I actually learn to live with that, or should I actually just go like, no, hello, I would like to have some more mixed race people in here and some more girls or people of all different sort of shapes and sizes and colors and all those things. So I think, you know, as open-minded as you can be, I think there's still a way of learning. Because I always said for myself, I'm so open-minded because I'm Dutch, which is a shit comment, I know. It's not a good comment. But, you know, I always felt, well, you know, I've seen it all and I'm not shocked by things a lot. But I do feel like seeing what has happened in the last couple of years, that I can learn from a lot of things, and, you know, I can be open to other people's perspectives as well for this. So we will have to see how society will think about that, because my next one is going to be a statement from a website who's very opposed to diversity. I'm not going to name the website because I don't want them to get any revenue, but if you really want to know, I will just message me and I will message you the website, but I don't recommend it to you because my fury just rose so much.
Mine too.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning.
Very much a trigger warning.
You're probably about to find out how bad it is, yeah.
It's awful. So this was one of the quotes that they used. Other groups such as Republicans, conservatives, Christians do not get representation in video games. If and when they do, it's never positive. Instead, they are portrayed as backward, hateful, intolerant, murderous bigots. So how do we feel as a group about that statement? Because it sounds as if there is a representation there, of course, but should game companies also represent these groups in a positive way in games? Because as much as I hate to say this, there is a point there that there are games that are about religious groups, Christians. I think Far Cry was one of those that it becomes almost like a cult, and they seem incredibly hateful and intolerant, and they just go on a murder spree to kill anyone who doesn't think like them. So how do we feel about that?
I'm like one half of me is like, oh, well, if the shoe fits, you know. But then I also leap back to my previous point. I'm like about positive representation, because like not all Republicans, conservatives, and Christians are bad people. Not like every single person that belongs to those groups are bad people. Just like not like just like not everyone is going to be like that. But unfortunately, especially in America, like there is again a stereotype, and maybe not so much a stereotype right now because super true. Like it is a very hateful and intolerant position to be in. Like I understand, yes, positive representation matters even for these groups of people, but also y'all are dicks.
Yeah, I spoke up on a podcast about my identity and got an email into the podcast and be like, well, I don't feel like I can be a Christian in my workplace. I believe in marriage between one man and one woman. And I'm like, I never even talked to you about your religion. I never talked to you about any of that. I was just like opening up about who I was. And that's some of the stuff that I hate to say it. There are people out there who do that. So yeah, I'm with Amanda. I struggle with both sides of it.
Yeah, I definitely, I note the point, because I think that is you know, like we're saying, we're talking about representation, but I almost feel like when you're dealing with politics and religion, I feel like there is way more dynamics at play when it comes to representation, because no matter who you are, you have a political stance by default, and there's also varying types of levels of Christianity and varying types of what Christianity beliefs. And don't get me wrong, let's totally have games where like Christianity is talked about in an intellectual and, you know, educational way, but then it's also like, well, there's more than one religion as well. Like that, you know, you could look around and think, oh well, there's no games about Hindus, there's no games about Buddhists. You know, do we want those games? Sure, let's have them. Let's have people making those games. But the problem is, like, we probably don't have the representation there for those games to be made properly, to be made in a light where it's like, okay, like this is an accurate representation. This is a perspective of a Christian in a video game. And I'm sure there's definitely Christians in the video game industry, but like, it, you know, it comes down to telling a story. When it comes to the politics, I find that a little bit harder to grasp on, because that's just that's a volatile place. Like politics is a very volatile place. And, you know, when you look at politics, and I look at, I mean, don't get me fucking started, but the UK government, and it's like, I'm seeing what's being done at the top there, and it's like, you know, that's plain to see. Read a news source that's legitimate, not biased. They're all slightly biased, but try and find one in the middle, and you learn about what your politicians are doing and where they stand. So if you want a representation on what politicians are doing, you're probably fucking getting it. You know what I mean? Because it's all corrupt. It's pretty goddamn corrupt there. And yeah, that gets my goat. The politician side, like, you're just like, yeah, you know, fuck everything you're saying about, you know, representing your race and your gender and your sexual orientation. I want to be represented in my politics. I'm like, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, your politics is so much far down the scale, because that's basically white males, which you've got plenty of anyway. So, you know, settle down, sit down, and just that it's a ridiculous comment. Like, it is ridiculous. I get the religious side, because that's something that could potentially be educational, but politics, fuck that.
Yeah. And World of Warcraft does have a Christian side. You have your light, and one of the traveler books, one of the dwarves talks about a one God. So I know it's not the Yahweh Jesus Christianity, but it is a representation of Christianity in WoW.
I mean, look at the Lightforged Draenei trying to oppress their beliefs on the Makar Orcs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's there.
I always feel like real life politics don't have a place in video games. Just none of them. If it's liberal or conservative, it just does not have a place in games. Just like what Thom said, it is already very volatile. And you see that here in the UK as well. You just have to talk about the left and the right, and people are at each other's throats. So why would you want that in a video game, you know, when you're trying to escape from it all? That's not... If you want to have stuff like that, watch a debate on TV, anything like that. But I just think there's no place for that in games. Yeah. The Christianity thing, I can understand, but look at so many war games that are out there. How many games aren't there about shooting Islamic people, or things like the Taliban or ISIS, things like that? There are other religious groups that are being portrayed as very negative in games.
Absolutely.
Because they need a antagonist. And the easiest thing is to look at a little bit like real life, especially for war games.
I remember one of the Call of Duty games had the antagonists as the Russians.
Oh, I'm going to go even further. When I was a teenager, I played the U.S. Army game, the official game by the Army, where where the other team looks like the stereotype people from the East. Yes.
Craziness.
Yeah. And I think, we still have things like that, except that nowadays, instead of putting a label on it, people just say it's terrorism because it's easier. You can put all sorts of groups under that.
But it's still set in a Middle Eastern setting.
Yeah,
most of the time. And if it's in an American or a European setting, then it's like a religious cult. That's often where they go with anything like that. Would it be nice to have more positive representation about religion in games? Yeah, I don't see anything against that. I'm sure there are. You could make good games with it.
I love Fall Guys because there's no shooting involved in it, and I'm of the place that I play some like FPS games, but I want more games with no shooting whatsoever, or you're just having a good time.
Yeah. Just to add on like the religious side as well, like. I'm an atheist. Like, I have no interest in religion, but would I be opposed to learning more about religions of the world? Absolutely not, because that's understanding someone's perspective. That's understanding what they've grown up with, their beliefs as well. Like, I'm not against that. Like, I welcome that. It's just like, why wouldn't you want to like try and help? It helps, bridge the gap to help to understand everyone a bit better, because we're all coming from different backgrounds and we're all coming from different places. And that's like, we need that education. We need to learn the unknown, because that's what we fear. That's why, our default is to be like, oh, we've got all these asylum seekers coming to our country and they're bad people because it's like, but you don't think about where they've come from or why they've had to flee their country, do you? It's just like, no, we're just automatically going to assume these are bad people and they're coming to steal things from our country. It's like, what? It's like, put yourselves in there. She's just like, why are they fleeing a country because because they want to? No, there's reasons there. And I think in general there is just a lack of empathy for people more, for myself, for white male people more unfortunate than me, which there is many. And there's just a lack of empathy for even giving a shit about that. It's like, well, I don't give a fuck. I've got my life and it's all good. I don't have to worry about this. And, people are coming here and they're just disrupting the status quo. And that's not good. And it's like, give me a break.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people, and I think that boils down back to that change thing. I think a lot of people are so scared of change and seeing their culture around them also change and be more open. Because I remember that people were very, very upset that a Protestant country like Holland should have mosques and everything like that, because they did not agree with that. And for a country that proclaims to be so liberal, that still, you will still hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, you could learn. And I think with every religion, and I know this is going a little bit from the topic, but I've always learned when I went to when I studied as a Dutch teacher, is that in a lot of literature and in art, there is so much symbolism and stories and basing other books and artwork on religion, and that's all sorts of religion. That's even like the older ancient religions like Norse or Egyptian, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam. It's like a fundamental thing that, and the more you know about every religion that was there or is there, I feel like your life only can be enriched, because you will understand a lot more, and you will understand people more, you will understand books more, you will understand art more. So I don't really understand why people always perceive it as so negative.
Yeah. It's like Albert Einstein once said, once you stop learning, you start dying.
Yeah. That's a very good way of saying it.
I mean, I think in terms of religion in video games, there's actually, unless it's something like a game like Call of Duty or Modern Warfare, where like it's pretty much a war on a group of people, there's actually not a lot of games dedicated to religion that I know of personally. I know a friend of mine was playing a story-driven game on Twitch last month, I think, and it was how she could convert people to her religion, and I was like, that's kind of cool. I don't know what religion it was. It might have been just a made up one for the story.
Oh, was that Cultist Simulator?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, Tom. Yeah.
I know my indie games.
Good. But what I really like to see in terms of religion in video games is when it's part of the background. Like, it's not necessarily the main story, but like if you're, for example, if you're Nathan Drake running around in Uncharted and you're uncovering like clues from temples, and you're learning about like ancient Mesopotamia. Well, that was a hard word to say since I haven't said it in so long. Or like you're seeing like you're in a game and you're hearing mosque bells in the distance, or mosque prayers and church bells, and like it's just those little nods to like, this is actually the society that we live in. It's multicultural. It's or multi-denominational. Like, our world is so diverse. But I think it was Thom that brought up about Buddhism. Like, I know that there's really a lack of representation for Buddhism in a lot of popular culture, but it's not non-existent. I do want to say that, because back in 2006 I took a university course on Asian religions, and just thinking this might be actually my first insight into critical geek culture, because we did a group project on Buddhism and popular culture, and like picked cartoons and did critical analysis of them. It's just random, but it brought it to my mind.
That's really cool, though. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
and I like it being in the background. I mean, it's one reason why I enjoyed the Da Vinci Code. I know that's going to make somebody's ears just go like, what? But it was cool learning about different theories and stuff. I mean, yeah, I enjoy it when it's kind of part of there.
Yeah, and I think, religion is a massive part of our history as well. The whole Crusades. I'm not saying it was all good, but it's there is a lot of history there. So, yeah, I agree. If we could put it more in a more positive light, then why not? And if people can't do that, I would think for a company it would be safer just to maybe make up a religion or something, instead of trying to say like, oh yeah, all Christianity or all Islamic people, or it's the same, the stereotyping again that you're doing.
Yeah, religion in historical context is really cool as well. Actually, like Kingdom. What's that game, Tom? Kingdom Come?
Kingdom Come Deliverance, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to call it Kingdom Deliverance, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. That was close. I think that. I haven't played all of it, but it's a really interesting look at like the Middle Ages and the way that there was a lot of Christian religious violence at the time. So I think those kind of games are really important, putting religion and bringing history to life in a way that makes it more engaging for people to learn as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I wasn't going to download that game until people said it's actually really, really interesting and it has a really good story. And then I thought, oh, maybe it will be a game that I enjoy then. So I did get it in the end.
It's in my library. I just messaged Thom that wish list. I was like, no, it's in my library, so I'll be downloading that now because that's a.
I think we've all done that when you see like the Epic games, like, oh, this is free. Okay, I'll get it. Yeah. I don't know, I'll get it.
I must have missed that one because I didn't get it.
Oh.
Uh-oh, still said Epic Games.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty words. Fine. Okay. In regards to Blizzard, so let's pull it a little bit back to World of Warcraft. So, do you guys think that we are seeing a overall change in how Blizzard is creating their characters and, you know, the talking and what they do on the forums? Do we see a change in the community as well? Or is it still a bit how it used to be?
I've definitely seen a change in the fact that Blizzard came out on a blue post and said things like homophobia, transphobia, and that is not canon. I think that they made a change in that Pelagos is a major character in the Bastion, and even Pelagos talks about his choice to be a man in the Shadowlands, and in that fact that they dropped the gender change fee, the fact that in one of their big books they have a gay romance. So I think there is openness, and even on like race diversity, the fact that they're going back and saying, hey, we're going to change all the guards to make it more random, to try to be more representative in the game. And so I see a shift forward.
I think, can someone correct me if I'm wrong, but it did this all, not this, but did it start with Chromie? Because Chromie is a female character model, but is a male dragon. Is that right?
That is correct.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So, like, for me, that's kind of the first step that I noticed, you know, of representation in Warcraft. I mean, it can only be a good thing. I mean, I think you mentioned a little while ago, Fraz, that like the barber shop thing of the price going up every time you want to change your appearance. So, you know, is that the case? Like the barber shop, the price goes up every time you change.
Yeah, and it does not roll off. I found that out from my friend Sash, who said that's so. There's no money fee, but there is a gold fee, and I think that should go down if you don't go to the barbershop for a while and stuff like that, because then that does affect gender fluid. I mean, and gender queer. It affects a few different things. Or if you just want to change your looks, like I'm changing Frazley to the female appearance because I like the hair and stuff like that. And if I want to switch back, I've got to do all those fees.
Yeah, I think there's a big questions. I think we touched on earlier about customization in video games as well, and keeping it to kind of World of Warcraft. I'm gonna say, like, have I noticed the diversity changes? No, because I'm a white male. I keep saying that, but I'm just like, have I noticed this a lot? No, because even when you say about the guards, I'm like, yeah, when I think about it, they're just all white, aren't they? And even when I think about just the player base, it's like, oh, if you saw some player with black skin color, like that is so rare. Like that is like something you don't see, and it's like, I'm pretty sure like there's some black people that play this game, but when they play the game, do they feel like they can't even represent themselves for fear of what that means? Because that doesn't seem common to me. That like when I'm in World of Warcraft, it's like everyone's white and everyone's playing that. From a personal perspective, I've always pretty much played as a female in World of Warcraft. I don't really know why. I think aesthetically, I just like the look of how the armor sat on my characters, but it's kind of bled over into every like MMO. Like I play female characters pretty much exclusively, and I don't know what the why that really is. Like I don't actually feel as comfortable playing like male characters in MMO spaces, and I don't know if it's just like I play that role every day of my life. When I'm in an MMO, I want to experience something different. and I don't know the meaning behind that at all. And I think when I do make my way back to World of Warcraft, I want to get more into RP, and I have an RP character as well, and I've wrote like a backstory for her as well, and like that to me feels more in depth. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why I've ever done that. And again, with regards to diversity, like I haven't been noticing these things, and even just hearing these things today, like it's making me more aware. Like even by the second, I'm kind of learning more. It's like, yeah, it's one thing learning it about video games, but then okay, you're within this video game world, and you're looking at the diversity. And yes, I mentioned it earlier, like we've had strong female characters, but it's more than gender. There's other representation that can be there as well, and I'm not seeing it, and that's possibly because I'm ignorant and I'm just living my life and not caring about these things. And I need to be caring about these things and being made aware of these things. So when I hear something about, oh, in Shadowlands there's a character who's changed gender, who was in life they were female, and in the afterlife they're now male, I'm like, that's really interesting. Like I want to know more about that. I like and deep down I'm like, I hope this is being done in the right way as well. Like but I'm never like, oh my god, like what are they doing to our game? I can't believe it. It's like I just don't, I can't process why, but again, it's, the change still, people are against the change, but it's like, why doesn't that interest you? Why aren't you more curious? Why are you just outright like, no, it's like, why don't you listen? Why don't you listen before you make a judgment? Why don't you actually take the time to learn a bit more about it before you make a decision of just outright like, no, because it's not the norm? Just take a moment.
And Thom, what you're asking yourself on the gender was actually one thing that I kept asking myself, why I always played male tunes, and I kept thinking, I asked myself, why do I always pick a male tune? And that's when it hit for me. I'm not saying that it hit the same way for you, but it does make you think.
I think like picking characters or creating characters in a game like Warcraft is a form of expression for yourself as well. Like I've rolled a lot of characters. I have loads of alts, and I love playing like male characters. Yes, I main a female, but like I have like a real soft spot in my heart for my male characters. I love them.
I'm kind of 50-50. I mean, we talk about this on Charactercraft. Like, does it like what does a character mean to you? What makes a character? And for me, it's I'm not bothered about like what gender they are, as long as they fit my idea in my head of what I want that character to be. Then so be it, and I'll have males, females, white, black, you name it. I'll have any of those if it fits that narrative that I want it to fit. Yeah.
I have to say that the change that I have seen, and sometimes I'm less conscious of it, like Thom, that like with the guards. Maybe I was just subconscious going, oh yeah, there's female guards, but never really thought, oh yeah, I've only seen male guards. Maybe that is something that all of a sudden it has just crept in. I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. Now that I hear it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. The one thing I'm a little bit disappointed with Blizzard is that now that I'm in the beta, I checked to see if character customization is actually as great as they said it was going to be on BlizzCon. And to create that picture, during BlizzCon there was an image that we could change the race of our characters if you're human for that representation, so you could make a black person, and there was always a dark skin color in the game, but the facial features were off. It was still very much Caucasian features. Same for like maybe a lighter color that was going towards Asian. There were no hooded eyelids or anything like that. It was just a Caucasian face shape. They've changed that, And I thought, let's see, because the pictures on the BlizzCon screenshot or projector or whatever it was looked amazing. I was really, really impressed. And that was not there. I tried it, and they looked slightly Asian, but not as much as they should have been. Not as much as they said on the screenshot. Look, like this is the image, and you can be really Asian. Or I know it sounds wrong when I say that, but you just can't recreate it at all. And I'm slightly disappointed with that. And I actually did put my concerns forward to Blizzard, saying, well, you've showed this, but we can't make that. Are you going to do anything with that? And I do hope that they will do that with Shadowlands, because I don't want to say, oh, false advertisement, but, you know, it's on that edge there that I'm like, you're saying you're representing, but then I can't create the Asian male that I want to, because he just looks Caucasian to me. So that's one of the things I'm a little bit worried about. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like they're taking the effort to do that, but then now they're doing it like half-assed. So it's almost like, do you care about this enough? Like, you're making these changes, but then do you actually care about it enough? Because if this is not up to standard, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not implementing this properly? Or, you know, why aren't you taking the utmost care with this feature? Then you're almost like, well, don't they care? And then it's like, you know. And of course, you know, anything that a game company makes, there's always going to be people out there that are going to be judgmental and critique it. But I think from, you know, a basic perspective, if something like this, which, you know, they need to handle right, you know, it's a big deal for people. And they need to be ensuring that is getting the care and love and the attention that it deserves as well.
Yeah, no, I really think that. Let's hope that it's still, you know, it's not out yet. So I'm hoping that they will change a little thing.
There's still time.
There's still time to fix it, Blizzard. Please do.
I'm hoping that the this customization was a back-end change, and that this was going to be something that every patch they're going to add a few more things in, because even what they have here, there needs to be even more past that. So I'm hoping that this is they had to rework a lot of stuff like they did with Legion.
Yeah, we can only see where. I mean, it's at least a step in the right direction. I think where they're going with everything.
And I like how you constructively called them out on it, and because that is one thing that we do need to be calling out companies on, but not in a you're being awful, but just say, hey, we want holding them to task and accountable. Yeah,
let's hope that they see it at least. I don't know, but we shall see. I'll keep testing it now and again.
Right. Say Blizzard's always watching.
That sounds so creepy. All right. Okay. I'll go through a few things that, you know, people who are very negative about certain changes say, and I just want to get your initial reaction about things. So some of the questions that we hear, who are very opposed to diversity and change, say the certain things. So let's start with the first one. Why are people who and also, I just want to make clear, I'm just quoting. This is not my writing. This is actually what they say. Why are people who identify by their sexual proclivities so important that they deserve special representation in video games?
Because those people exist in the real world.
Man just hit it right on the head. Yeah, and they exist. They matter.
Mm-hmm. I did think that, and then my head automatically went to go to. So for some people, it's an escapism, and they don't want to be dealing with the real world, if you know what I mean. So I get Amanda's point, though. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the world is diverse. If you don't want to create a diverse character, then don't create a diverse character.
Yeah, agreed.
Does it matter to you personally? No. Okay, it's not going to matter to you in the game. Does it matter to you personally? Yes, you're going to be glad for the representation.
And if you want Blizzard to keep making money, I saw a tweet by somebody who did not want to play WoW because when they were transitioning, they could not change their gender, and they did not feel like they're playing their game, so that they actually unsub from WoW. So if you want Blizzard to keep making money, this is a good thing.
Good on them.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Next thing that people say. Where is the evidence that the LGBTQ people are a growing part of the gaming community, and why should anyone care?
Twitter.
Because the LGBTQ people exist in the real world.
I love that answer.
Same answer for every question, and it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at BlizzCon, I saw so many people with rainbows. I mean, and like I saw so many people of so many different backgrounds at BlizzCon. There is a room for it, so it exists. Some of my best friends are of the LGBTQ community. So yeah, look on Twitter, look at BlizzCon, look around you, and also every June, look at the troll run. You will see over 1,000 trolls this past June running for it. So it exists.
And like the word gamer is literally like gamer, like
exactly.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that one. Okay, one that I've also seen now with the new customization changes. Why do blood elves and gnomes have to be black? Where is the lore behind that?
Because there's black blood elves and gnomes in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when the lore was made for WoW, we were in a whole different time of stuff. Lore changes, and you, unless you're under a rock, you'll see how BlizzCon retcon stuff. So this is an absolutely okay retcon that Blizzard is doing.
Yeah, but find me where it says that where like all blood elves and gnomes have always been white.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly. There is no evidence that it's only because it was never implemented in game, but that's the same for Asian people or for like black people with black facial features instead of Caucasian features. So it's just, your character is getting an upgrade.
And
that's just what it is.
And not to bring politics back in, but look in your history books, who wrote the history books. And we can even say that the people who wrote the WoW history books, it's the same way as just in real life.
And also, Azeroth is a big goddamn ass planet, and there's about half of that you've never seen.
Exactly.
So how do you know what's been going on the dark side of Azeroth?
I mean, it took years for us to find Pandaren. So
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's always been there, apparently, the continent. So,
Yep.
yeah, that was one that I went like,
the world
well,
ain't flat. The world ain't flat. Oh, have I started something else there? Never
well,
mind.
we'll see about that.
Don't go there, Thom.
If you're in the Argus, you see it's round.
And the final one that people say, adding minorities to the game or people who are not heterosexual is the game companies pandering to push their social justice warrior agenda.
If it's not, are we pushing an incel agenda?
Oh!
I'm glad Amanda's here just to own these questions.
I love Amanda.
So,
I love you,
just like,
Amanda.
what do we say to that? It's like, you're right, Amanda.
Yes.
And this is the thing. So for people wondering why I put things like this in there, it's because we've all seen trade chats, we've all seen forums, we've all seen Facebook communities who will ask these questions or actually make these statements. And people often want to fight the fight, but they don't know what to say. And it can be just as simple as that. Just to, help with the fight against, well, the incels. I'm just going to use Amanda's words.
And
I think I just don't. I know, and there's going to be a lot of people that just have the stance where you just don't understand why people are so against something that's probably not going to impact them. Like, and if the fact that a character in a video game that you enjoy is, for example, if they're gay, like if that impacts you and outrages you that much, then I think, you need to take yourself out of the video game and maybe take a look at your world perspective of just why that makes you angry. I'm not saying like you're wrong for feeling angry, but maybe there's a point and there's a reason why you feel anger or you feel emotions towards this. Like it could be a potential, self-exploration that you need to ask yourself these questions like, why am I outraged? a gay person? Why am I outraged at a black person? Why am I outraged this is being added to a game? And maybe just ask those questions to yourself and see what answers you come up with, because maybe you'll discover something about yourself. Maybe you can pinpoint something in your past, or something about yourself now that potentially you're suppressing, or something like that, where you might actually go, oh, or you're just an asshole. But I try to be constructive about it, because when people have emotions about something, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why you would not be happy about that. And it's like, well, let's try and find out why then. Let's try and find out why that causes you distress, because maybe we can get to the bottom of that. Maybe there's a reason, and we got to be open to that. Like, I'm all for helping people, educating people, and potentially getting to a place where they're like, let's make the world more diverse, and let's have the doors open for everyone.
And for a young adult who's playing games, because they are the next generation that's going to be going through it, if they're playing these games and they see a identity that in the back of their head has been nagging at them for a while, and they're being told one thing at home, but they go to this game and they see positive representation of that, maybe they themselves will be able to explore that identity and not wait till they're 30 before they change who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I think
Final
going
question.
forward, sorry, Sel, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I think I was answering your final question. I thought we already asked it. My bad, carry on.
So for the final question, what can we do? So not just us, but listeners who might go like, oh, actually, what can I do to make a positive impact, or do we actually need to do anything at all? What would be your suggestion be, or your advice?
Mine's simple, and I say this all the time: don't be a dick. Just be a nice person. It's not hard.
Listen to other people's experiences. Don't erase what they're saying, but listen to what they're going through, because you may find that you actually connect with them on a deeper level than you thought.
I think a lot of it comes down to this. It's something that, and I agree with Rig and Frazley, but it's something that straight white men need to get on board with and need to push this diversity and inclusion agenda, for lack of a better phrase, because just like racism isn't it's a problem that impacts race, but it's not it's a white person's problem. Just like feminism impacts gender equality, it's a white man's problem. Diversity and inclusion in games might not impact a white man, but it is a white man's problem. It's something that if you see something, you need to call it out, stand up and be the person, be the change that you want to see in the world. And I will say, and I've said it before on many podcasts, the men that exist in the Dragon Power community are phenomenal examples of the men that we need to have in the movements to bring the change in the gaming community. And if you look to these men who are learning to be better versions of themselves, learning to be feminist, learning to be anti-racist, learning to be the people that are making the changes in the community, that's who we need to exemplify. That's who we need to look to as role models. And they are the type of men who are going to be on the forefront of these changes. Yes, the changes also need to include the LGBTQ community. They need to include women. They need to include other races. But when it comes down to it, we can shout all we want. It's the men who need to finally open the gates and be the examples and call out the incels, call out the people who are against the diversity, against the inclusion, and be like, well, why? Why? Ask the questions and call people out. It's important, and I think it's the only way that, just like any movement, it's the only way change is going to happen at a systematic and systemic level.
Yeah, I mean, my answer could easily just be like what Amanda said, and it's great podcasting debate. But I feel like we need to, like, as white males, we need to listen more. We need to try to bridge those gaps, because we are so far ahead. We're so far ahead in the chain that, you know, it's not even funny. It's ridiculous. And to acknowledge that and to say that out loud, like, that's not you being weak. That's not you showing weakness. It's more about, you know, pushing for the equality. And even right now, sitting here, I can be like saying these words like, if I'm a white male, you know, I can say anything right now and it's fine. And I don't have that pressure. I don't have that pressure of, you know, having to make a statement right now. Like, I don't. And I could say whatever right now, and people go, oh yeah, that's, you know, that's great. And it's like, you need to look into yourself, and you need to, you know, start just, you know, give yourself a shake and being like, look what's happening around the world, because your default is to not want to get involved in this. You just keep going straight, keep heading upwards. Don't let anything slow you down. But it's like, there's so much going on around that, you know, if you're going to continually ignore that, if you know, if you're going to see, you know, you're going to see sexism, you're going to see racism. And I think we all need to, like, educate ourselves more on this so much. Like, I've started to, but I haven't even scratched the surface. And, you know, it's something that's you're continually going to have to do. You're never going to be a place where you're like, okay, I know everything about racism now. I know everything about sexism, because you're not, because the world's constantly evolving as well. And you need to keep up with that and continue, you know, to keep your perspectives and your, you know, mindset open to the changes that's going on in the world. And change, like Sil says, like, we could go back to change is scary, and there's going to be people different from you, and you're not going to understand that, and that's going to make you want to, you know, go into your shell and not get involved in that. But, you know, there's people out there that are going through these changes who they're not going to, you know, push you away if you're trying to make the effort within yourself to become educated about the absolute, you know, various situations that we've talked about, from, you know, feminism, sexism, gender. You know, there's so many avenues, and you're not going to learn it all. You're not going to learn it all, but you can try, and you can attempt to be understanding, and, you know, potentially we can start moving all closer together in where we land on equality. But, you know, it's never gonna be totally equal. We've always got work to do, and we're always striving for that, and we always never can give up on that, even though you're going to look and say it's pointless, you know, whatever we do, it doesn't matter in the end. But it does. You can influence the people around you, influence your friends. And we've seen it in Dragon Power. Like, I see it in Dragon Power all the time, that we're representing our communities, and we're influencing our communities. And that's what we can do. We can influence the people around us, and then maybe they influence the people around them. And it's small changes, it's small steps, but we're taking steps, and that's what we need to do.
And like one like small point about like amplifying voices. Somebody shared a article about asexuality that I read, and it got me thinking. So if you see an article out there that even just retweeting it somewhere or sharing somebody, you never know what work you will do. I've got a friend, Kara, who is continually liking stuff, and it's been working in my head.
I think in the end, you have to think about if you are going to stand up for minorities, for diversity. Will there be a group of people who will call you a simp? Yeah, probably. So be it. You know, in the end, I think you have to think about what would make you feel good, not putting your head in the sand and not dealing with it, or actually just calling someone out, okay, sorry, but you're wrong. Or why do you feel that way? Why is it hurting you? Just making a small change, you know, in how you think, or just even being open. I think it's very much about looking inside yourself and thinking, what sort of person do I want to be towards others?
It only takes one small movement to cause an avalanche.
Exactly.
And you will lose followers. You will lose friends. I'm not saying that to make you to stop you from doing it, but just realize. But you will lose some of those. But did you really want them in the first place? And the friends you will gain, I have to say, I've met so many amazing friends, and on this side of it, they are so much nicer than some of the friends I lost. I have to say that too.
Yeah. Well, this was a very hefty discussion, but I'm very glad that I had it with you guys. If there's any group of people that I would love to discuss this with, it was with you guys. So thank you so much for contributing and participating. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Even Rig.
Wow.
So I hope you enjoyed that roundtable. I know I said it was the second one. Actually, it's the third one I've made. I need to make more roundtables, and I am open for suggestions on topics. So feel free to send me a DM or an email and suggest some roundtables that you would like to see. Or maybe if you want to be part of a roundtable and have a suggestion, that also works. So just let me know. And I just want to say that these guys were all from the Dragon Powered studio. And it's been such a joy being part of that network. It has so many amazing podcasts and podcasters. So it's been one big joy being part of their group and their team. And I can't wish for any better teammates, really. And saying that, talking about teammates, I also want to give a big shout out to some of my guildies, or actually my entire guild, just because they are pretty amazing. And this, of course, is the guild a bit like Taliethics on Argent Dawn EU. We are Alliance side. I know. You know, they're all. If there's one flaw, it's that. Don't kill me, Alliance players. You know I'm bi-factional anyway. So, Alliance side. We are still recruiting, and if you want to be part of the fun bunch, then come and find us on Argent Dawn. I think we are still in the Guild Finder. So, just look up a bit like, and then you will find Taliethics in there as well. And one of our lovely officers will have a chat with you then, if you want to be part of the guild. And we only have really one rule: don't be a dick. And I think that's the running theme in this podcast, you know. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And they have been amazing by sending in a lot of files as well for the following section. So the next section is the question of the week, and the question of the week was basically a 2-pointer. I wanted to know which episode you enjoyed the most of the 99 that I made, just out of curiosity. I'm always curious to hear what you guys enjoy and why, and also what you're looking forward to in Shadowlands, or which NPC you hope you run into in Shadowlands. An NPC that might have been taken away from us, like let's say Varian. I don't know if he's in Shadowlands or not, but Varian maybe. So you guys send a lot of MP3s. I'm going to read one out because actually this was not an MP3. This is what at least one person said on Twitter. Everyone else sent MP3s, which I'm really happy with, but I am going to read this one out. So Nick Z said, most looking forward to finding out more about how life and death work. Afterlives is leaving so many questions. NPCs I'd like to run into is Cairn. Maybe he's hanging out with Myla's dad. Favorite episode was your Noble interview, because there was so much lore to think about. There was a lot of lore to think about. So thank you, Nick. For the rest, it's all MP3s, so that saves me a lot of work, except for all the editing I have to do. However, I do want to give a slight warning. I know that some people have access to beta, and they might actually say that there are NPCs in there that we are going to see. If you don't want to get spoiled, you might have to fast forward a little bit, just a tiny bit. And yeah, that's all I'm saying. I know that some of you really don't want to get spoiled at all. Not everyone says anything about characters we are definitely going to see, but some MP3s have that, and I thought I should just put a warning out there just in case. So yeah, that's it, and I will come back afterwards with something extra, and enjoy the MP3s. I certainly did, and I really want to thank you guys for it, because it made my day.
This is Sai with Scrubs vs. the World. Just want to congratulate you, Sil, on 100 episodes. Such a huge mile marker here, and I cannot wait to see what you got for us here in the future. As for my favorite episode, I'm going to be selfish here and choose the episode we were on titled Soul Glow. I'm choosing this one here because this was one of my favorite guest appearances I've ever done, and I just had a great time, and we really flowed well with that conversation, and we got to talk about the fun song that was in Coming to America that goes a little something like this. It says, just let your soul glow, 'cause it feels so silky smooth, just let it shine through. You're welcome, everyone. That is why I don't sing normally, but I told Sil I would do that for her. But anyways, moving on. As for the Shadowlands character I would like to run into, I'd like to see Gwyneth Blythe-Legond. She was a quest giver in Aberdeen before Deathwing decided to destroy it like a big jerk face. She was the quest giver that would have us go down and collect the monstrous creature bones, or carcasses, throughout the Dark Shore. And I want to see what kind of monstrous creatures she has us go and collect in the Shadowlands. I think that'd be super cool if they put her in there. As far as other things I'm looking forward to, just new content. I'm looking forward to making a super metal shaman for the Scourge Lords. It's going to be awesome. And I cannot wait for some Jellycat action. That's really my motivation behind choosing the Scourge Lords. Not that it's a metal thing, but I like Jellykitties apparently. But yeah, keep up the great work, Sil. Super proud of you, and here's to 100 more.
Hey, Sil, it's David, longtime listener. All your shows, all the way back to Girls Gone WoW, Battle Chat, and maybe one or two other shows that you guested on or co-hosted on, among the years. Favorite guest was Berserker, because he basically did what I do every show, which is yelled at you for claiming that your Whisper question was a failed experiment. It's yours, own it. It can be whatever you need it to be and whatever the person needs to put out there into the world. I don't think I heard that this last episode 99, so maybe that's improved now. My person I want to see in the Shadowlands, I'm not really sure. Don't have a good idea there. Maybe Karen. Karen would be a good one. Anyway, congrats on 100. Keep up what you're doing. I appreciate everything you do to fill my head with WoW content as I go about my days and weeks, and appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Hi Sil, it's Demi from the Third Faction Show. Congratulations on your 100th episode. Whoop, 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 whoop. I am absolutely thrilled that you've made it to 100 because your show is fabulous and I really enjoy listening to it almost as much as I enjoyed coming on. I felt very privileged to be one of your guests in the last 100 episodes, and I sincerely hope that you go for at least 100 more, if not ticking over to 1,000. I think that would be very, very special indeed. You've asked us what our favourite episodes of the show have been, and also what we're looking forward to in Shadowlands, and which NPC we would most like to run into. So my favourite episode, the one that I've listened to, I really enjoyed the episode you did with Caber76. I really, really liked that episode. It felt very relaxed and like you were both having a really good time. The Noble episode, because I am a huge Noble fangirl, they've all stood out for me. And also the one with Bricko, of course, my lovely co-host on the Third Faction. I couldn't not mention him, could I? Because that was one of the things that we talked about when we first started talking about doing a podcast. So you've got a lot to answer for, my dear. As what I'm looking forward to in the Shadowlands, I am thrilled that I will get to see Alexandra's Mograine. As a massive Death Knight fangirl, and particularly a Mograine family fangirl, I actually got my hands on the Ashbringer comic this morning. I am really, really excited to see and hear more about those guys. I don't think we're going to see Renault, which is going to be a bit possibly a bit of a letdown, but we'll get lots of Darian and lots of Alexandra, so that's going to be cool. Also get some more Bolvar, and I am a Bolvar loyalist, so that works as well. Not so fussed about Arthas, not bothered, not, you know, if I don't want him to be resurrected or brought back or redeemed or anything like that. That would ruin the end of ICC for me. I think he needs to be laid to rest and just, you know, left in the past where he belongs. I don't want him to be brought back. Having said that, the person that I would still really like to see is Virion. I would like to see Virion at peace. I would like to know that after everything he went through, being torn in two, having his wife die, defending Azeroth numerous times against various threats, I just want the guy to have a rest. And, you know, ideally if he's there with Tiffin and they are able to enjoy each other together in the Elysium Fields, then I would be very, very happy. However, Warcraft isn't famous for giving happy endings, so I'm not holding my breath. Once again, congratulations on your 100th episode, and here's to many more. And I apologise for the added bonus of my dog barking.
Hey Sil, this is Marty from Two Nerds Maybe More. I just wanted to start out by saying big congrats on 100 episodes. That is at least, I don't know, like at least 100 hours. I can see that a lot of your shows are longer than an hour, so it's probably more, but at least 100 hours of content that you have created, so thank you for that. And secondly, my favorite episode is obviously all the ones I'm on, but if I do have to choose an episode where I'm non-egocentric, then I would say that it's the one with Medellin Rue. That was a really good episode, and really good fun to listen to. And thirdly, who am I looking forward to in the new expansion? Well, there's so many characters that they could bring back, but one that I think a lot of people love, myself included, is Arthas and Uther, because we already had one very interesting digital short that showed some things happening. So what's all that about? I want to know more, and soon we can. So I guess that's my picks. Again, thank you so much for being you and being an awesome podcaster. I'm looking forward to the next 100. And hopefully you'll invite me back for some, at least, 2 or 3 of them. So again, big congrats on the 100.
Hey, so congratulations on the 100th episode. That's pretty freaking awesome. So as for my favorite episode of Whispers of War, I'm having a debate, as usual. I liked episode 84 with Des Mephisto. It was the first one that I have ever heard with Des, and I really started to like his playstyle and what he was about, and started watching his Twitch and following him on Twitter, and he's just a cool dude, and I got introduced to him through your show. And right after that, episode 85 with Soul So Breezy, that's another one that I felt like I had been watching and listening to his show forever. So one day I'm listening to your show and there he is on it, and I'm like, wow, dude, I know this guy. I listen to him and watch him all the time. And I got to really know him better through your show, which was awesome because he seems like the type of dude you can just share a beer with and hang out. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, that's it's my favorite episodes of your show, but I've got probably a lot more, but I can't list them all. So, anyway, I hope you're doing well, staying safe, and I hope you're not making too many alts because I want to have more than you in Shadowlands. All right, peace, later.
Hey Sil, this is Front. I want to say congratulations on episode 100 of Whispers of War. Regarding your questions of which NPC I would like to see again in the Shadowlands and which episode I liked the most, I will have to say that for the NPC, it's definitely Ysera. I'm not sure if dragons will go to the Shadowlands. I really hope so. Legion was the first expansion I actually got invested in the story, and seeing her perish like that, it really, really broke my heart. So I want to see that she's doing alright down there. On the favorite episode, I'm really torn between 2 episodes in particular, which is the Noble interview and the Madeline Rue interview. I like them a lot, so yeah. Anyhow, keep up the good work.
Hey, Sil. This is Exclavier coming to you from the northern part of Texas in the United States. Just wanted to say congratulations on your 100th episode. That is awesome. I've been with you for this whole journey along the way. I've enjoyed every bit of it. Favorite episode, I would have to say probably my 2 favorites are MacGyver and Kevin, Ringmaster Kevin, just because I've always just really enjoyed both of the 2 of them, and your interview with them was just, awesome. I know you guys have talked in the past together, but really enjoyed that. What I'm looking forward to most in Shadowlands, amazingly enough, I'm actually looking forward to running some of the old content and leveling up in some of the old zones with a lot of tunes that I have that I haven't gotten to max level. And, of course, seeing the aesthetics and the music and all of the new places to go and see and investigate. And then finally, my 2 favorite people that I would say I'm looking forward to seeing would be Sourfang and then also, of course, Varian. I got to admit, I bleed blue pretty much, a light purple, but mostly blue. But those will be the 2. Again, Sil, thank you for everything you've done for the community. Thank you for all that you have put into it over the years, this podcast and others before. I just want to express my sincerest thanks. It is a pleasure to listen to you and to enjoy the journey with you as you're commentating on it and interviewing other people that are doing the same. So thank you, Sil, and congratulations.
Good day, my name is Nathan, also known as Ugret in the guild A Bit Like Teleetics. My favorite episode from Whispers of War is Embrace Your Inner Geek with Noble. Why I love the episode is quite easy. He comes over relaxed. You can listen to him like a long time. And the other point is I like stories of games. The lore, it's important. It drives a game, to my opinion. One of my favorite storylines is the one of Troll, and the other one is Tyrion. Do I like the Arthur storyline? Yes, of course I like it, but it's a literally copy from the Darth Vader storyline. What I want to see come back in Shadowlands is I want to see 2 characters return in Shadowlands. Arthas, because I think the story is just not finished. It's a copy from the Star Wars storyline, and I think they need to finish it different than the Star Wars storyline from Darth Vader. The other one is a Varian Rin. I want to know more of him. I want to know more of the death of his wife. I want to know more.
Hey, Sil, Ali here. I want to congratulate you on 100 episodes. That is no easy feat, and I absolutely adore what you do with this show. Please keep it up. As for my favorite episode, I honestly had a hard time figuring it out. I mean, I could be biased and say the ones I was on, simply for the fact that you are just so lovely to talk with. But really, I'd have to say the episode that you interviewed Hazelnutty, because it was so nice to see and hear more about her beyond just creating the wonderful videos of hers I love. As for who I want to see in Shadowlands, there's so many people. But really, I have to go with Arthas, because his storyline was what got me into lore in the first place, and after that Bastion video, I want to know more. So, again, congratulations on 100 episodes. Thank you so much for everything you do, for your kind heart, and here's to 100 more.
Hi Sil, Thom here from 3 Extra Lives. I'm formerly a little Blizzard podcast called The Blue Recluse. Congratulations on 100 episodes of Whispers of War. Fantastic achievement. You did it. You made it to the big 100, and here's to the next 100 episodes. I gotta say, out of all the episodes that you've put out, my favorite probably has to be way back on episode 4. Oh my goodness, what a guest you had on for that episode. Fantastic. I definitely recommend going back to listening to episode 4. Oh my goodness, probably the best guest you could have ever had was on episode 4 of Whispers of War. But in all seriousness, I think show 83, Warcraft Women, you had some amazing guests with you, including Ali from Dungeon Fables, Amanda from Geek Herring, and Professor Talib from the Half Hill Report, along with yourself doing a roundtable about a really important subject, playing Warcraft as a woman and what that means in 2020. So again, congratulations. I wish you all the best and keep listening for those whispers.
Hey, this is Frazley, and I think for the character I'm looking forward to the most in Shadowlands is to do with Anduin's ancestry. What if Anduin finds somebody that he knows from his past who's in the Shadowlands? Because right now he's going through a lot of decisions going forward. He's been thrust into power. He was not ready for it. And it has taken a toll on him that he's been this king that everybody's looking up to, but I don't get the feeling that he's ready for it. Maybe we're going to find somebody in the Shadowlands that Anduin will be like, wow, I needed to hear from you to know what to do going forward. So again, it's a very human gnome alliance perspective, but I'm excited to see more about Anduin possibly growing, or maybe even Anduin be like, hey, maybe I'm not a leader, and he steps aside. So that's what I'm hoping for in the storylines going forward.
Hi Seal, it's Bones, the GM of A Bit Like Tally Ethics. Congratulations on 100 podcasts, amazing achievement, and every one of them absolutely awesome. I really enjoyed listening to them, so thank you very much for doing this for the community. If I was to pick my favourite, I'd have to say episode 81. It's such a good episode, full of comedy, drama, everything you like, but no panda mages. I really do feel sorry for Noble having to follow up that awesome podcast. So if anybody's going to check out one of them, check out number 81. As for who I'm looking forward to seeing back in Shadowlands, it's got to be old Blanchy, hasn't it? Whatever happened to that poor horse? Anyway, thank you very much once again, and look forward to 100 more podcasts from you in the future. Cheers.
Okay, so my favourite episode, as much as it pains me to say this, it's got to be 81 with Bones. Incidentally, he bemoaned my panda mage during that episode. He now has one. A little bit of tidbit there. Oh, how the mighty fall. The thing I'm most looking forward to in Shadowlands has got to be an entire expansion with the guild together. Playing together from the start throughout is just really exciting, I think. And then which NPC I want to see from the past in Shadowlands. I'm cheating here. I've got 2. The first one is because he's the ultimate badass, Broxigar. That whole story with him in general is amazing, and being able to use him again as a character, I think would be really interesting. And the second one is got to be Dranosh Sourfang. Obviously, Sylvanas is still a storyline that's going to be explored, and with the fight with our normal Sourfang, and his backstory and history, I think Dranosh would be a really good antagonist or catalyst for that storyline within Shadowlands.
Hey, so this is Arctic Anomaly, or Kalusha if it's a bit easier to pronounce. Congratulations on 100 episodes. That's an awesome milestone. You should be super proud of yourself. In terms of Shadowlands and who I would like to see going forward, it's definitely got to be Arthas. His story so far has been great, but I really think there's a lot more to explore there. And I think Blizzard got something up their sleeve that is either going to be loved by fans or hated. But I'd really like to see what they can do with it. I'd like to see that side of the Warcraft story a bit more. But yeah, congratulations, you've done a great job, and I'll see you in the guild.
So thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciated all those MP3s. and time and effort you guys put into it. And as you can hear, those were some also of my amazing guildies. So if you want to be part of that, you know what to do. But yes, I want to thank, this is like, the Academy Awards. I want to thank all of you for downloading and listening, for giving feedback as well, because that also helps. Nothing like constructive feedback for a podcast. That's always good. So I appreciate that. I loved every one of you who contributed, each to their own way. So that could be by downloading and listening, by sharing the podcast and the tweets, by replying to the tweets, and just being amazing people. I had a blast doing 100 shows, so I guess we're going forward to the next 100. It's scary thinking that we'll be in another 2 years. God, I'll be so old. So, yeah, had a really, really great time doing this. Anyhow, I need new guests as well, so feel free to send me a DM with, the fact that you want to be a guest. I don't bite, and I always try to make it a lot of fun for the guests who are on. And we'll just talk all things Warcraft as well. And knowing me, we'll probably go off topic as well. That's just part of the gist. So yeah, I will hopefully hear from you guys soon. And you can get in touch with me in the following ways. Also, do stay for the ending, because there's more. Anyhow, you can find me on whispersofwar.popping.com or dragonpoweredstudio.com/Discord with all the amazing people from the Dragon Powered Studio. Twitter, whispers_of_war, or my personal one, McMonkeys with a Z. Email whispersofwarpodcast@gmail.com. Twitch is twitch.tv/McMonkeys with a double Z, and that's the same for my Instagram. It's all cat pictures. That's really it. Cat pictures and probably coffee, because I'm very basic. But yeah, thank you for that. And I'll leave you with a little something. It's more for my fellow podcasters from the Dragon Powered Studio. I hope you enjoyed this last bit. I certainly did, editing it. And I will hear from all of you next week. Bye-bye.
And this is how a Team Dragon meeting is, so...
Exactly. You put Dragon Powered Studio people together, and you're going to get absolute shenanigans.
Shenanigans?
Yes. I think this will make a great blooper reel. So, the show hasn't started yet. You need to edit this. Just a reminder. You need to edit this part as well.
Yeah, and edit this part as well. Just
everything.
It's always one that slips through the crack,
I couldn't slip through any cracks the size of me.
Did you know that Rig is taller than Frazley?
What the?
But by 2 inches, right? Rig 6'8"?
Yeah, 6'8".
Oh my god!
I was going to make such a crude comment about 2 inches, but you know what? I'm not.
What's 2 inches between gnomes?
It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. That's what it is.
I want to see that as a main event in like WrestleMania or something. Frazley versus Rig.
Oh yes, I'm coming at you, Rig.
It's like Andre the Giant versus the Big Show.
We just have to remind Sil, because it started recording, so she has to edit this part out, because we haven't started the show yet.
Sil, before I forget, you have to edit this part out.
Thanks guys. Really appreciate that.
I'm sorry, what have I started? Sounds like, why the fuck did I ask these people on?
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.